If you ever worry about whether or not you're coming across suboptimally in video, maybe a little bit annoying, maybe undercutting your authority, just a tad, this is part 2 where I go into some of the things we might not know that we're doing that make us annoying in video. If you haven't watched the first one, it's right here. I highly recommend because we go over the 4 horsemen that I definitely see happen when people are showing up on video. But this is video 2, where we are going to go into the 5 monsters. And make sure you stick around to the end because I have this special little thing that you might be interested in about how to show up better in video and in virtual meetings in particular. And if we're just meeting, hi, I'm Goodrich. I'm a perma-curious content creator, creative strategist, and my favorite thing to do is to help people show up as the big deal they are. Remember that they're a big deal. Help others understand that they're a big deal. And one of the biggest ways that we lose our power and authority is when we get into video and virtual meetings where we have to translate our awesome. So these are the 5 monsters that I see oftentimes really siphoning all of that magnetic quality. Now, a lot of these are in a category that we call non-verbals, meaning that they're a part of our communication that doesn't have to do with what we actually say, that has to do with the way that our bodies are moving and what that communicates on a subconscious level. Here is the one caveat I'm going to say about that. I am neurodivergent. You might be rocking with some different motor issues or different neurochemistry that means that some of these things you naturally do. I am in no way saying not to do them. What I am saying is that if your goals are to show up in a way that really resonates with other people, these might be things that you want to look at. But me, for myself, because I understand these, I can also say in other circumstances where I already have power and authority and rapport that I do some of these things and I give 0. But the point is, I know when and how to use them. And before we dig into the video, I have a quick favor to ask. If this content resonates with you, will you just leave me a comment about it and potentially like it if that's your vibe? It really supports me and my channel, and I will love you forever and like you for always. All right, let's go. All right, monster number 1 is the slumper. Now, this really has to do with our body language. Is it contracting or is it expansive? Now, if you haven't seen this amazing TED Talk by Dr. Amy Cuddy, who's a researcher in nonverbal cues, it's a really great primer for this. But basically what it means is that if you are contracting and if you are minimizing yourself and being small, the effect of that is that there's a hormonal cascade that also makes you feel small and makes others think of you with less power and authority. So instead of contracting, we want to think about expanding our body language. We want to think about taking up space and really emanating with confidence. And one of the things that she suggests is just putting your hands on your hip, putting your legs apart, and just kind of standing there. Now, this might not be something that you want to do in the actual meeting or interaction itself, but it might be something you do to prepare yourself ahead of time and remind yourself, I want to be sitting in a way that's powerful. Also, it's something you can catch yourself when you're speaking or when you're listening and just have that awareness. Am I contracting or am I making myself bigger and taking up space and therefore seeming confident AF? The second monster is the Dissonator. Now, the idea with this one is that it's dissonator as in dissonance, which means that there's a difference between two things that gives our brain issues. And in this case, what we're talking about is the difference between what we're saying and what our nonverbals are doing. So a great example of this is if I say something like, it was a really great idea. Now that's of course exaggerating, but what you can see with that is that on the one hand, I am shaking my head and clearly saying no. And then on the other hand, I'm saying, yeah, it was really great. What happens when we're being authentic is that the nonverbals and what we say are in sync. So when they're out of sync, what we think immediately is that that person is being performative and inauthentic. So how does this really show up? A lot of the times when this shows up is when we're trying to evoke a state we're not really in. For example, you're in a virtual meeting and your boss says something to you like, I don't really know about that, Jeannie. And you're left there to keep it all together and respond like it's not actually bothering you, when we both know it is. Under those circumstances, when we're trying to bottle up our emotions, we might say something like, oh, thanks so much. I really appreciate your feedback. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that something is deeply out of sync, and it means that we don't end up trusting you. So when you aren't sure whether or not the dissonator is showing up, ask yourself, how am I actually feeling right now? And if you're trying to manifest energy out of thin air and you're not feeling it, we're gonna notice it when we're watching the video. So maybe take a break or think about how to integrate your actual state with what you're doing. Number 3, the flasher. This one is one of my favorite ones because it truly tells us what time of day it is and what somebody's actually thinking. And these are microexpressions. If you haven't seen this amazing show called Lie to Me from quite a few years ago, it is so great in breaking down microexpressions. It's loosely based on a real story, a real researcher, but here's the gist. There are 7 universal faces that we make when we feel different things. There's anger, there's disgust, there's fear, there's happiness, there's sadness, there's surprise, and contempt. Now keep in mind, mine might look just a little bit different because I got Botox. Vanessa Van Edwards, who's an amazing researcher with The Science of People, highly recommend her YouTube channel. She's just brilliant in all of the ways. She studies this relationship in video in a really powerful way. But what happens with microexpressions is that they flash across our face and really betray or show what it is we're actually feeling. And if you ever want to watch a great example of this, just watch shows like Real Housewives of New York City, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, because they are constantly getting into drama and constantly trying to act like that drama doesn't affect them. And what happens when they get hit with something, you see it flash across their face, and then you see them, go back to a smile, try to pretend like it's all okay. I see this happen mostly in video when it's our internal monologue is thinking something negative, when we're trying to just show up and do what we want to do. When that happens, you might say something that's supposed to be positive, but flash to disgust or anger because you're thinking about how you sounded when you said that. But even though people might not be consciously aware of what's hitting them wrong about you, that's probably what it is they caught on some basal level in their brain that microexpression, and seeing that mismatch means that they aren't going to trust you. That means when you're recording videos where you do multiple takes, just redo it. Catch yourself, think about, oh my gosh, did I have a crappy thought? Okay, let me redo it, and try to make your energy all in sync. Because the truth is, it's very hard to hide what we're thinking, even though we think we can. Number 4, the soother. Now this one really needs a caveat, because if you are neurodivergent like myself, I don't want you to believe that you really have to betray every impulse in your body in order to show up with authority. But I want you to become aware of this in case this is a dial that you want to try to play with. Hopefully we'll get to a point in society where people will stop judging us for our self-soothing gestures, but sadly we aren't there yet. The soother really shows up when we are in some way unsure about what it is we're saying. And these are gestures like rocking, playing with our hair or our clothes, using blocking language, or things like playing with our fingers and our hands. When we see any of these gestures, our brains tend to think that that person is not particularly confident. And then we make judgments about how competent they are, how much charisma they have, etc. Even though they might be stims that are perfectly normal and healthy and have nothing to do with their power and authority in the world. And lastly, number 5, the distractor. Now the distractor is 100% what it sounds like. When your nonverbals are all over the place. What Vanessa Van Edwards talks about, which I absolutely love, is this idea of a power box, meaning that when we're using our hands and gestures, they can really help with our charisma, provided they're in sync with what we're talking about and really help people understand what we're trying to say. The power box roughly is from your shoulders down to your navel. That's so weird that I said navel. I don't think I've ever said that in real life. Anyways, some people end up really making huge gestures and moving in a way that can become super, super, super distracting. And that creates issues for the person trying to pull focus and understanding what you're saying. And it again causes that mismatch that really hurts our brains. And for better or for worse, they will connect you with that feeling and not really want to listen and pay attention to what you're saying because of it. And the solution is super easy, just keeping your gestures closer to your body. I'm actually working on a course to help people show up magnetically in virtual meetings and video, and the link's below to check it out. Go forth, show up with your full embodied badassery and big deal energy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.